We highly recommend, as part of proper due diligence.
Yeah.
Did I use the right words?
Absolutely. Good job, man.
Thanks. It's proper due diligence when you're looking to invest or buy a property.
Yeah.
Get a camera drain.
Have you been thinking about buying your first rental property for some time, or do you already own a bunch of properties? Well, fellow investors, you found the right location to listen and learn from others' successes. Welcome to The Very Real Estate Effect with your host, Axel Monsaingeon.
Hello, and welcome back to the Very Real Estate Effect podcast, a show dedicated to real estate investing right here in Quebec. And today it's a pleasure and an honor to have my friend Ben Levine, president of Levine Brothers Plumbing. How's it going, man?
Excellent, Axel. Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm excited that you're here. You are in charge of a large plumbing company.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, plumbing is scary. And I've been wanting to have you on the show for a little bit because I know you have so much to share. And before we get into it, I just want to remind everyone, thank you for following the show. Share it with a friend who could benefit from a good, fun plumbing conversation, because every real estate investor has something they can do differently, especially after this episode. So share it with a friend, all right? Now, Ben, you are the president of Levine Brothers. Like, how did you end up in that position? How did it all start?
Started over 100 years ago.
Okay.
I looked not bad, eh?
Oh, yeah. Good job, man.
I'm fourth generation in the company.
Wow.
It was, my dad had said when I was in high school that if I wanted to go into the company, no problem, welcome me in. I needed a university degree. It wasn't my path at first. I needed to choose my own way.
Yeah.
I make it simple, right?
Of course.
And so I wanted to be a physio.
Okay.
So I did my career day in grade 11 in physio, and then CEGEP, I was in health sciences. Shout out Dawson College.
Yay.
Anyway, and realized that sciences just weren't for me. I took one business class, and my mind was illuminated.
There you go.
And it was from that point on, I decided to use my powers for good. No, to really invest myself in how I could learn better myself, to go into the company to help. And then after I got a BCom in economics from John Molson School of Business.
Me too.
Hey,
Look at that.
yeah. I came into the company, and really harsh lesson I learned really quickly is my uncle had called me into his office, and he said, keep your ears open and your mouth shut, learn how we do things. You're coming in, you graduated school, you have a lot of experience, and now
But you know nothing
here,
yet.
you have zero experience. That was my path to get into the company. From inside the company, I started off as in the service department, taking over on dispatching, took over in the warehouse. I did pricing, I did ordering, I was service manager. Then I became an apprentice. I got my cards, apprentice, straight through into being a journeyman plumber.
Yeah.
Then project manager and master plumber and master heating technician now.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you actually, so went to university, got a business degree.
Yep.
And then you went into the company, and then you learned the plumbing basically from the ground up on the technical side.
Not necessarily from the ground up, because I was starting to work with my dad from the time I was like 7, 8 years old.
Yeah.
We actually just had a plumber retire with us this past Christmas, who was with us for 40 years.
Wow.
And when I was about 6 or 7, I would go with him on service calls, and he actually taught me my tools.
Oh.
So I learned. I worked the ice storm straight through, summer breaks, winter vacations, where everyone else was going down to Florida or the beaches. I was putting on my long johns and going to work out in the winter and snow.
Nice.
Yeah.
And this is like fourth generation business.
Yeah.
Huh? So your great-grandfather would have started.
Great-grandfather. So my great-grandfather, Isaac, he was a blacksmith.
Mm-hmm.
He made the metal rims around the wooden tires originally of cars. Obviously, that became obsolete over time.
Slowly.
Yeah. And his son was a plumber on construction sites. Son Arthur was my great uncle. And they went into business together. And back then, everything was repairable. But with Isaac having the tools, the knowledge, they would go take something out. Let's say a radiator was leaking. Mm-hmm. They'd take it out, bring it back to the shop. they'd fix it in the shop with all the metalworking stuff that they had, all the tools, and then they go and reinstall it. So that was really the impetus to the company.
The metal work, and then that evolved into plumbing?
Yeah, it evolved into plumbing. And quick story how my grandfather joined. He was 17 years younger, my grandfather Jack, 17 years younger than his brother.
Yeah.
He's 15 years old. He was delivering groceries, and Arthur was right behind, and he was delivering a 50-pound bag of potatoes, and he fell on the bike. Arthur pulled up behind him, said, "Where's the delivery?" Made the delivery for him, said, "Jack, get in the car," put the bike in, returned the bike to the grocery store and said, "He just made his last order for you. Jack, you're coming to work with me." And that was the first brothers in Levine Brothers.
Oh, wow.
And later on, my dad graduated engineering at McGill in 1970, and my uncle graduated business at Concordia, Sir George, in 71, and they just joined.
They combined.
That's
and
amazing. My brother-in-law graduated from electrical engineering from McGill in 03, a year before me, and I graduated BCom a year after him in 04, and I joined, so it's like almost a mirror of the generations. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so now the company's been around for 100 years. If it's still around statistically, you guys are doing something properly.
Not bad, yeah.
Not bad, yeah. And now you've grown the business to roughly like what's the size of the business in terms of employees, trucks?
So we have been just under 50 employees, which mattered with the language laws up until very recently. So we're right now we're at around 47 employees.
Okay.
Between office staff, plumbers on the road, project managers, and apprentices. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, okay, now what kind of projects do you service? Like, can anyone who's calling, if they have a faulty hot water tank, can they call you?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So anything from a dripping tap in a little bungalow in Outremont or Hochelaga-Maisonneuve, right up until high-rise office towers, apartment buildings, replacing risers, replacing heating systems, hot water systems, troubleshooting, things like that.
Okay, perfect. So now that we've kind of set the stage in terms of who you are and what the company does, which is extremely important, it seems like plumbing is always something that kind of scares people. Oh. And before we actually dive into it, I just want to remind everyone, like, plumbing is, and correct me if I'm wrong with my definition, but like I was going to say, is the set of tubing systems that makes the house work from a heating and a water perspective while they're coming in, and then all the drains and stuff like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay, woo.
Pretty good.
Yay!
I like to say that plumbing and heating are like a body in a system, where it's the pumping of a heating system, it's the digestive system.
The digestive,
Water in.
Out.
Yeah, there you go. So drains, supply and drains, and the blood flow is like the heating system.
Very good analogy. Yeah, that's quite poetic, man. I didn't know that side of you.
Oh, we're only just getting started.
Yeah. Okay, so in preparation, like we wanted to, there's certain topics that you've identified as the most common. And one of the first ones to start with, and I'm thinking of, real estate investors who are listening, who are like, okay, on my next acquisition and inspection, like I kind of like look at the piping, but I'm not sure really what to look for. So where do you start when it comes to this?
All right. So there's old original galvanized piping is first and foremost.
Yeah.
And the kind of piping that's in a property, in a home, in a plex, in a huge apartment building, those pipings are not necessarily prohibitive, but it needs to be factored into the cost.
Mm-hmm.
First,
because they have to be replaced?
Because they could have to be replaced, either relatively short term or something to plan for on the long term basis. So first thing that I would notice coming in is original galvanized steel piping.
Yeah.
Galvanized steel, hot water had been replaced already at least 20, 30 years ago, because what ends up happening is with galvanized piping is that it blocks up on the inside. So there's rust. So the top floor will have issues of rust coming out. You'll see rust on the cold water, or the pressure will just drop. We've taken pieces of galvanized piping out that you couldn't even see through.
Because it was so
It
full
was
of rust?
so full of rust. It was a 1/2-inch pipe, and like I couldn't even drop a pin through the middle of it. It didn't work.
Jesus.
So that's something that's now we're getting really towards the urgency of needing to replace it, because your tenants aren't going to be happy with you. They're going to have rust. They're going to have low pressure. They're not going to be able to take showers. I hear that's kind of necessary for tenants to need to do.
Especially at this time. Well, all the time, but yeah.
Yeah. So that's galvanized is one. Another one is there's a lot of unapproved piping. So it's currently unapproved. They were installed in condos, were built with Poly-B or Kitec. They were installed up until around 2007, 2008. And they were plastic water pipes that are not approved anymore. Why? Because they start to have micro cracks on them. So we can't even branch into them. We can't repair them.
Mm-hmm.
We can't cut it and adapt to it. We need to replace all of it.
The whole network.
The whole network. So a lot of times we'll see condos were built with it. And so not necessarily the risers, but the distributions within each apartment.
Okay.
So we've gone into complexes where we've had to plan out and change all of the piping one apartment at a time, which the piping is not that difficult, but it's coordinating to, it's behind closed walls.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of extra work involved, and especially these are also people's homes, so we're really aware of that. So these are now becoming much more drastic. There's also apartment buildings that were built with this, homes that have Poly-B in it that we can't adapt into. So that's an issue.
So then are you more proning for just good old PEX or copper? What's your weapon of choice?
If you would have asked me 5 years ago, we were copper, tried, tested, true.
Yeah.
If sized out properly and installed properly, copper could and has seen to last 100 years.
Yeah.
Now I understand that there's a lot of different constraints, so to speak. Listen, from a financial point of view,
the price of copper just blowed up.
It's and the differences and the install, it's very different these days. But there are so many different plastics on the market. How do we choose which one? There's one professional grade one that's not sold at Home Depot. Sorry, big box stores. Excuse me. Not to name any.
It's okay.
Okay. Anyway, that aren't sold anywhere but to professional plumbers. It's called Wurzboro, and that one has been around for a while. This is the one that we install in our renovations where copper isn't a viable option, and a lot of times we give our clients the options of what they would like and what we recommend. If we want to keep the standards of the building and the whole building is already in copper, then we would recommend stay in copper.
Yeah.
If we're looking for investment properties, a lot of times we're going now more towards Wurzboro.
Okay. Is that the one that's kind of the transparent plastic and the tool is like a little pyramid that you stick inside that opens?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I've got this one once. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So it's an expanding tool in there. Yeah.
Okay, because I've done the good old PEX one because that's
With
really
the rings
easy.
that cramp, with
Exactly.
the pliers.
And because that, like, I keep saying like a 7-year-old can do it. It's kind of like Legos.
Yeah.
It hasn't. The ones I've done haven't leaked, but not that I shouldn't be doing plumbing, but it was just fixing stuff. So protecting myself already.
Yeah. And also we've seen, even if it's copper, and there's a little bit of misconception, even if it's copper, depends on the quality of copper that was installed, depends on the flow that's going through it. If there's constant running, then there's erosion. If it was a type M, which is the ones with the red markings, then it's thinner than type L, which is the blue ones. And if there's been systematic leaks over the building over a little bit of time, then it's starting to be time to think and look about replacing the risers. The risers are the vertical water pipes that supply each apartment.
Yeah, that span the whole height of the building.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, on top of piping, there's also a lot of questions and I was going to say in constraints when it comes to, I like how you said the digestive system. It's such a perfect analogy. Like, okay, water coming in, so the main water entry, and then the main drain.
Yeah.
And I'll just share a story. Like, we bought a property in Hochelaga Maisonneuve. We were finished with the renovation. The drain got clogged. We almost had to rip out the floor that we just finished. Luckily, we didn't. But it taught me the lesson because in that property, we didn't do a visual inspection. And so I'm sure you have some horror stories, but let's start maybe with the main water entry.
Yeah.
What do you see now? Is everything being replaced from lead?
So lead is only there when the piping is for a duplex, maybe a triplex, when it comes in 3/4, homes that were built before 1960s. So this is lead water entries. You can see by taking a coin and scratching below the main valve, seeing what color it is.
Okay.
However, it could still be lead even if your side has been changed. So water entry into a home, there's the main run in the street. Then there's a branch off of your house, and then it's called the bonhomme.
Yeah.
The bonhomme is the curbside stop.
The valve.
In English. It's the valve.
Yeah.
That belongs to the city. Up until that point, from there, everything belongs and is responsibility of the city. However, from that bonhomme, which could be on your sidewalk, could be your lawn, your driveway, your walkway, into the house, that's all the homeowner's responsibility. Yeah. So a lot of times when the main water entries have been changed, it's only from the bonhomme, but maybe the city hasn't done it yet.
Okay.
And the other part to it is a lot of times the cities haven't necessarily kept good records, so they wouldn't know if their side has been changed or even your side has been changed. They might not know. So it's take a look at the quartier, the neighborhood that you're looking, see if it's prevalent for lead. A lot of times there's older Côte Saint-Luc, older Hampstead, St. Henry, Outremont. There's a few more of them, not to name names. No, but not to blame anybody.
Yeah.
But it was more about the time that it was. So lead entry, definitely take a look into that. If you're nervous about it and there's...
the city has a registry, no?
The city does have a registry, but it's not fully complete, and they obviously protect themselves when they say do your own testing. If you're testing for lead content, you could only do it really from July 1st till September 30th, because the water's too cold.
Oh.
Lead really only leaches into the water systems during the warmest, when it's at its warmest. So when we're
in winter
filming, so we're filming this podcast right now, it's
winter.
the middle of winter.
Yeah.
That is when the lead is least likely to be testing positive in the water.
Okay.
So if you do a testing now and you test positive, you're really going to have problems in the summer. But if you're nervous, test in the summer.
Okay.
Some stopgaps. In the meantime, you can't boil lead out of water. If anything, you make it more concentrated because the lead stays in the water and you're just boiling water out. But there are lead filters, so... Let's say a Brita filter, there is a lead-specific one. Make sure you know about that. For a lot of what we do now is under-the-counter filters. Make sure you get one that is lead certified and it filters out lead. Because if you don't, they say it can filter out lead, but it's not necessarily for lead. The first half of the life of the filter, it will trap the lead, and the second half, it will release the lead into the water. So you're better off actually not having a filter. But so get one specific for lead. There's also a whole house one, but now we're talking with water softener. We're talking a major upgrade.
Yeah.
This we're putting into homes really in Hampstead, Outremont, bigger ones in the West
Island. It also
Island.
takes quite a bit of space, I imagine.
Quite a bit of space. It's a double barrel. It's a much bigger solution, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's lead.
Okay. What about the drain?
The main drain. So this is a huge issue in Montreal because Montreal, there's some areas of Montreal that are built on swamps. There are some areas of Montreal that are built on clay, and the ground is constantly
moves,
shifting.
of course.
Absolutely.
And trees on the sidewalk.
So, and it doesn't take much for roots to grow into a drain. I have people tell me, but it's okay. It's not that bad. Well, all it takes is a hairline crack and a root to get into a drain is less than maybe not my hair, but less than the thickness of a hair of a crack, and the roots will start to grow in, and you might not realize it right away. You wouldn't be able to notice until you really have a problem, and then you really have a problem when the roots block your entire property.
Yeah. I was gonna say, especially if you have some the old clay pipes where it's 3-foot sections. We did a visual inspection, and literally, for those who can't, because this is a podcast, you can't see, but imagine you have a coffee filter every 3 feet, and you have a 20-foot drain. No wonder the water doesn't go through, and that's exactly what happens when there is big trees.
Exactly. So we highly recommend, as part of proper due diligence.
Yeah.
Did I use the right words?
Absolutely. Good job, man.
Thanks. It's proper due diligence when you're looking to invest or buy a property.
Yeah.
Get a camera drain, have it down the main, or we've even seen nightmares where they supposedly had a camera inspection done for the main drain, but they didn't bother checking any of the basement drains. And after they did the renovation, they started to notice a smell, and then they noticed that things were coming up in the basement. It turns out that the drains inside the house, inside the basement, triplex. Yeah. Inside the basement, they had all collapsed. It was the terracotta, it was the clay pipes, and everything had just collapsed fully. And so water
just stagnated in there? It just didn't drain?
It didn't drain, started coming up out of the first area in the basement, so the basement flooded, and to figure out why, there was a lot of tears from the investors of that home, so to speak, and a lot of discussions with the bank. Yeah. We helped them out for a construction loan and things like that. So get a proper camera test done. Anything you can't see underneath the cement, past the house, these are all critical things that could cost you a lot of money, a lot of headaches, especially if you're planning on redesigning the space. You don't want to have to redo afterwards.
No. This is, and the $400 or $500 to do a camera inspection of the drain could literally save you $25,000 down the road. Oh, yeah. You could just say, look, I'm going to renegotiate with the seller. I learned this the hard way. I should have done an inspection. I didn't do it. We renovated, and then 4 or 5 months later, it was clogged. I regret it, but it's too late. You live and learn. Now on the drain, that's really. Anything else in terms of maintenance that people should know to take care of?
So for maintenance purposes and even on inspection, I'd like to go for heating equipment, hot water.
Yeah.
So especially bigger apartment buildings, to start with, on inspection, bring a boiler specialist in, have them open up the boiler, take a look. Even though, so yes, maintenance should regularly be done on a boiler. There should be a sticker right on that boiler or a logbook
with the dates.
With the dates, who it was done by, all that other fun stuff. But there are some, not all boiler maintenance companies are created equal, so to speak.
Or as professional.
Yes, or as professional. Some of them really come to make it look good, but they're not actually doing a proper cleaning, and it's not within the best interest. We've walked into a newly purchased property, and we opened up a boiler that had clearly not been properly flushed out in close to 20 years, and then they wondered why they couldn't get enough heating in the building. It ended up, to get it back up, it was about $2,000-$3,000 worth of cleaning alone. On the other hand, the maintenance company that they had came in and said, oh, you need a new boiler. Now they're talking about a $20,000-$30,000 job instead of $2,000. And even less if it would be properly maintained every year. So on inspection, get it opened up. Make sure maintenance had been done regularly. Hot water systems, if it's a gas hot water systems, also maintenance regularly. That's really one of the things to look out for. When you're going into a property, I want to talk a little bit about flood protection.
Yes.
Especially when there's elevators involved, because just a little bit of investment could save you tens of thousands of dollars regularly when elevator pits flood. it ruins the hydraulics in it, it ruins the electronics, and each time is like 20, 30 grand.
Yeah.
The elevator company.
And it doesn't work for 3 weeks, and the tenants are pissed.
Yeah.
So how do you prevent that? Is it just putting sensors?
So sensors, automation, alarms. So talking a little bit about automation, it's sensors, but where does the alarm go to? Who actually gets alerts? So these days, if you have decent Wi-Fi in the area, you could have it set up that there's an alert sent to the superintendent, the concierge management companies, your own cell phone.
Yeah.
There's so many things that you could do to protect water levels and make sure that the basements, the drains, the pits are working properly. There's also, in the same automation mentality, it's automatic water shutoff systems. So
how does that work?
Oh, it's awesome. So okay,
tell me, I like it.
I could talk for half an hour just on this one, but quickly, there's 2 separate systems. It goes right on the main entry, either of the condo, of the apartment, of the.
It's on the main valve.
It's on the main valve, and it's an electronic valve, and either it's a flow-based system. So flow-based, it learns through AI, it learns your habits. It learns what's regular, what's not regular. And then if there's a irregular water use, it alerts you. So it actually could detect, even if your toilet's running, it'll let you know small flow going through, probable cause toilet leak.
Wow.
So it'll help you through that. Or there's other ones that use sensors around, they're directly connected. As soon as the sensor gets wet, it closes it and mitigates damages. Not saying it stops damages, but at least it'll prevent so much ceilings from coming down. It'll help with your insurances. So check with your insurance before you install them. Different insurance companies actually require different specs for the buildings that they're protecting. So check what the insurance company wants, install it, save a little bit of money, and sleep better at night also. So that helps.
Sleep better. That's really important. Kind of as a last question, given the years of experience that you have accumulated in the company and the hundreds, the thousands of properties that you've visited, the ones first of all, are there properties where you walk away and you're like, wow, these guys, they're on top of their maintenance? And if they are, what is it special that they do that others don't?
Ooh, that's a great question.
That's a hard one.
Okay, so it's instead of fixing small issues as they come up. So I know a company, so we went in, one of our clients had bought a new building, and one of those pipes, there was a main distribution pipe in the garage, I counted 17 couplings on it.
Oof.
Which in my mind was a minimum of about 12 service calls. And I calculated. And I said, listen, this pipe is obviously not in good condition. It needs to be changed. Put the investment in now. And I said, I'm going to do an exercise for you.
14 opportunities for leak.
So the other thing that I did, I guesstimated how much it costs to have those repairs done with those 17 couplings. Compared to the price of just replacing it one time. If a pipe on one side is thin and leaking, take care of the whole thing. It's the same wear and tear. It's the same flow going through it. And it ended up being 7 times cheaper to replace the entire pipe once.
I'm not surprised.
Rather than all the other repairs that they did.
And I guess that goes to preventive maintenance and staying on top of it and be proactive instead of reactive. And sometimes, like, bite the bullet now, you'll save much more later.
Yes. And last recommendation that I give to every property manager, building owner, is have repair parts on hand.
Okay.
You're doing a renovation, you know the brand, you know the model. Call the company up, get some repair parts, get a kit together, try to standardize what you have in the same building. You standardize, you have repair parts. It's it'll help you in emergency situations, and you don't have to go looking for it, or if it's discontinued later on.
That's a really good idea. Just to have a few spare parts of the most likely you're going to have to use is a great advice. Thanks a lot, man. Now, if anybody who's listening would like to get in touch with you and the company, what's the best way to do so?
So check us out on Facebook, Instagram. I don't know if I should be saying this out loud, but
Please.
it's myself and my wife
Yeah.
who are actually on the messages. So if you send a message or connect with me on LinkedIn, you want to connect directly with the company, go to our website, look us up, Levine Bros, and give us a call, and we could definitely be there to help.
And if you need anything, if you have a service call, well, call Ben. Don't call Ben directly. Call the office, and they'll send. It'll go to dispatch, and it's a good way to start.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much for coming on today. Thank you for having this conversation. It's I like to get my hands dirty, so this was a fun one. Thank you very much for listening week after week. As usual, research your market, make some offers. I'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.